Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the internet, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an awesome honor and a privilege, as it is every day, to have you guys joining me as we, a bunch of online friends, talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all that types of good stuff. And we've got a hell of a lot of stuff to cover today, so let's just dive right into it. Yesterday on Twitter, Brie Larson put out this semi-cryptic tweet saying, "Hey, EW, or Entertainment Weekly, how about we break the internet tomorrow?" And EW goes, "Okay, yeah, let's do that." Now, some people were wondering maybe that means there's a trailer coming, but it makes no sense that they would drop a trailer because always Marvel's pattern is they drop images, official looks, posters, whatever, and then they drop a trailer. So we kind of knew it wasn't going to be a trailer, and sure enough, they dropped their first official look at Captain Marvel. So let's take a look at it. This is the new cover on Captain Marvel, or for Entertainment Weekly, with our first official look at Brie Larson as Captain Marvel in the traditional colors. I know a lot of people, we'll talk about this in a second, a lot of people thought it was going to be green or whatever, and we're worried about that. But here she is in the official, very traditional look of the Captain Marvel outfit. There's another kind of look at her, actually from a scene in the movie. You can see she's wearing the outfit there. I think the outfit looks great. I think she looks great. She's an Academy Award-winning actress. What's there not to be excited about? Now, we'll talk more about the suit here in a second, but let's bring this back for just a moment, if you will, to remember months and 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 months ago, there's those photos that were leaked of Brie Larson in a green, like it's the Captain Marvel outfit, but it was green in theme, instead of the traditional blue and gold and red and stuff like that. And everybody's going, oh, blah, blah, and it was very loose fitting. Oh, I hate the costume, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, guys, the movie hasn't even started shooting yet. This is clearly them just doing some costume tests. This isn't the costume. But so many people were so upset that it's green and it's really baggy and all that kind of stuff. It's like, guys, this is clearly a costume test that they're doing. And sure enough, it is, because this costume looks nothing like that costume they were doing in just those random little camera and costume tests. Now, look, for me, the costume of a film isn't all that important. I mean, it can be cool or it can be bad, but ultimately the costume's not that important, really. To me, as long as I can look at the character and instantly identify, oh, this is Wolverine. Or I can instantly look at a character and go, oh, that is Black Panther. Or look at the character and go, oh, that is clearly Batman. Regardless of the iterations or the little change, the costumes aren't all that important. And look, when you look at this picture, let's say you had no idea there was a Captain Marvel movie coming, nothing like that, and you just saw this picture, you would instantly know what movie this is. You would instantly know this is Captain Marvel. And it is pretty true. I mean, at least in main style, it's pretty true to what we've seen in the comic books at any rate. And Brie Larson is gorgeous and beautiful and super uber talented. She's an Academy Award-winning actress. This to me looks great. She looks great. So I like it. Now, the one thing I'll say about the EW cover is that the EW cover looks pretty photoshopped. I mean, that looks extremely photoshopped. And I'm not talking about the glow of lightning around her hands. Obviously, that's photoshopped. But I mean, even the costume itself seems a little photoshopped. But if you go beyond that and just go to the actual production picture, looks pretty good to me. I like it. I think it looks solid despite... I wish they'd put this on the cover instead of this, to be honest with you. Just because, again, this looks very painted, as opposed to this. So I actually think this image is the one they should have used on the cover. Either way, I'm excited about the film. I think the costume looks solid. Clearly not the same one they were using for the camera test and for the costume test. And I think it's pretty safe to say we can probably expect a trailer within the next week or two. That would follow the normal Marvel marketing modus operandi, is if they drop a trailer within the next 2 weeks. I mean, they could drop one tomorrow, but I think within the next 2 weeks, we're probably going to get our first look at a trailer. All right, let's move on to the next thing here. Speaking of the MCU, of course, we all know there's this big ongoing drama with Dave Bautista and Disney. He's being very vocal about the fact that he doesn't want to be in the Disney films anymore. He doesn't want to be Drax anymore. However, he's under contract, so he kind of has to do it. Will Disney let him out of his contract? All that kind of stuff. Now, a lot of people have been wondering, what's this going to do to Dave Bautista's career? Well, apparently not all that much negative is going to be happening to his career, because it came out today that Dave Bautista has been signed by easily the most prestigious agency in Hollywood, CAA. He's been signed by CAA. Now, the two biggest agencies in Hollywood are William Morris Endeavor and CAA, but it's pretty much accepted that CAA is probably the most prestigious of all the ones. They have the most A-list talent and all this kind of stuff. Now, Dave Bautista was being repped by an agency called Gersh, which is no slouch. I mean, they're a top 10 agency in the town. But it looks like the biggest agency in town just stepped up and signed Dave Bautista. Now, Dave Bautista just finished shooting one film with Kumail Nanjiani from The Big Sick. That sounds really good. He's about to start shooting another movie that he's actually one of the producers on as well. His dance card is pretty full, and now that this huge, prestigious agency has signed him, it looks like this whole little beef he's got going with Disney isn't going to slow him down. If anything, there are a few articles writing that are suggesting that the respect level for Dave Bautista has actually gone up in Hollywood, and people are looking at him more now because of this standoff and standing on his principles thing with Disney, which I think is pretty good for him. Again, look, Disney's in a no-win situation here. They absolutely are. But I've always admired the way Dave Bautista's handled this. He's put his friend first. He's put his principles first, and he's standing on that. And even though that could have completely destroyed his career, he did it anyway. And it looks like it's having the opposite effect, that actually people are wanting to pay more attention to him now, which, you know what? Good for him. So that's good on him. All right, let's move on to the final thing off the top here. Or actually, the second final thing off the top. Now, on yesterday's show, we talked about how Henry Cavill has been cast for The Witcher. He's going to be playing the lead role in The Witcher, and all that kind of stuff. Now, the first thing I thought about was, hot damn, that jackass Boss Logic. And yes, he's a jackass. And because the reason he's a jackass is because there's only so much talent to go around in the world. And the fact that he would be such a greedy bastard and hoard so much talent to himself, while some of us have none, makes him a jackass. Anyway, I recall back to August 7th, I believe, of this month, or of last month, when he had put out this picture of Henry Cavill in the lead role, right? So he put out this picture of that, and I thought, wait a minute, is he a prophet? Is that what's going on? Did he prophesy? Did he know that Henry Cavill was going to become the lead role in The Witcher? I keep wanting to say The Witcher. Well, what I had forgotten about was the day before that, a story went around the web that I had ignored because it was one of those, an actor says he'd be into playing a certain role. That's not news. But on August 6th of last month, there was a news item that went around that Henry Cavill wanted to play Geralt in the adaptation of The Witcher, right? To me, that's not a story. Every actor wants a job. So sure, he said he wants to play that. He said he had just finished playing the game, and he played The Witcher 3 again because he's an avid gamer. He said he just finished playing Witcher 3 again and wants to do it. So it was because of that story that Boss Logic made this picture, which is just stupid good. I mean, just look at that. Henry Cavill as the lead guy, as Geralt. It just looks stupid. I mean, I get dumbfounded when I look at some of this guy's art sometimes. So some people started writing that because of this article, that, see, if actors say they want a role in an interview something, that means they could get the role. Well, here's the thing. There is a little bit of trickery going on there. Because while on August 6th, Henry Cavill said, I'd like to play the lead role in The Witcher, what we didn't know was that he already had the role. So here is a tweet that came out from the executive producer, writer, and showrunner of the new Witcher series, Lauren Ace Hisrich, and she wrote this yesterday. He, being Henry Cavill, was my first meeting. I didn't have writers or scripts yet, just a green light and a lot of passion. That was 4 months ago, and I've never forgotten the passion he brought. He is Geralt. He has always been. I'm so thrilled to welcome Henry Cavill to The Witcher. And then she puts up some other tweets as well. So you see, Henry Cavill actually met with the showrunner of the show 4 months ago, which means if he didn't already have the role on August 6th when he did that little interview and going, I would love to play Geralt. If he didn't already have the role, he was probably pretty sure he was getting it by that point. By that point, he was pretty close. But I'm going to tell you right now, he probably already had the role. This has probably already been locked for a couple of months. So I don't think that this is an example of an actor just saying in an interview you want to play a role and it could lead to that. No. I think he already had the role. I think it's pretty clear the role was already locked down for him. So there's that. But let's just take a second and look at this picture again. That just looks awesome. That is so great. And as soon as they mentioned that he was going to be it, I thought, I can totally see it. All you got to do is put a little baking flour in his beard and in his hair, and he'll look pretty bang on. And he looks pretty, not that looking like the character is all that important as long as you act like the character, but he does look pretty badass in this, I got to say. So anyway, okay, last off the top topic this morning. Just before we started the show today, a brand new trailer for the upcoming Halloween movie dropped. Now, I'll say this. You guys know, if you've watched me for any period of time, I'm one of those rare people that doesn't actually like the original Halloween. I don't actually think the original Halloween's all that good, to be honest with you. So I've never really liked any Halloween film. And so I have really not cared about this new Halloween film they've got coming out. I mean, it's interesting that they're forgetting all the other Halloween films, and this Halloween film is going to be the true sequel to the original film. That's interesting. Jamie Lee Curtis, the immortal Jamie Lee Curtis, is back. That's interesting. But honestly, I really had no interest in this movie whatsoever. And then the first trailer hit. And I was like, damn, that's actually not bad. That first trailer was actually pretty good. Okay, I'm intrigued. And today, this morning, this new trailer hits. And I'm going to tell you what, I'm even more happy about it now. I'm even more excited about it now. This property, this film that I could not give two drips of piss about just a little while ago, now after two trailers, I'm like, yeah, I'm on board. I'm on board. The one thing I will say about this new trailer that did not work for me was some of the dialogue choices that they used. It's like, okay, Jamie Lee Curtis, we get it. You're going to kill Michael. They had her repeat that too many times in a short trailer. Once would have been enough. I also didn't quite like the one line that made me roll my eyes a bit. Jamie Lee Curtis has got the gun. She's like, "Happy Halloween, Michael." I'm like, really? Really? Happy Halloween, Michael? But you know what? Those were two brief moments. Those are two small things. Overall, it felt great. And you know what? The trailer starts with this great tracking shot of following Michael out on the street. He bumps into the kids, walks around, then he walks down that driveway into that garage that's a makeshift thing for Halloween, and the lady's there, picks up the hammer. I mean, it's a great shot. And it was a really good choice to do that tracking shot there. And the feel of the rest of the trailer was really good. And look, this is all coming from a guy who does not care about the Halloween franchise. I don't care about it. But that first trailer got me intrigued. This trailer, full-blown, has me on board. I'm on board for this movie. I'm excited about the movie now. I mean, not as excited as I am for Aquaman or something like that, but I am legitimately now counting down to when I get to see this movie. And who knows? And that is the best testimony you can give about a trailer. A trailer turned a guy who didn't care at all about the franchise into going, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that now. So good job for them on the trailers and what they put out for this movie so far, because it's making some believers even out of some unbelievers. So well done for that. All right, with that out of the way, let's move on to our main topics of the day. And what are our main topics? Well, you guys select our main topics. How do you send in a topic or a question to possibly be on the John Campea Show? It's simple. You just email me anytime at john@thejohncampeashow.com. Put the word topic in the subject line and keep those emails to 90 words or less, guys. Can't be used if they're any longer than that. So once again, if you've got a topic or a question you'd like to see addressed on the show, email me to john@thejohncampeashow.com. Put the word topic in the subject line and keep those emails to 90 words or less. All right, let's move on now with the first official topic today. And the first one emailed in today comes to us from one of our Patreon supporters, Dan Ketchum, who writes, and first of all, Dan, thanks so much for being a Patreon supporter. How's it going, John? This whole controversy over Geoffrey Owens working at a grocery store between acting gigs seemed very strange. I thought most of the actors in Los Angeles had to work regular jobs sometimes. What's the big deal for the trolls? It's honest work. All right, so for you guys who haven't seen this, it is perplexing. I mean, sometimes we see things that go, man, I feel good about the human race. And then sometimes we see things that go, the human race is pathetic. We're just useless. This is one of those things where I feel like the human race is kind of pathetic and useless. So you've got this actor, Geoffrey Owens. If you don't know who he is, that's cool. But he had a pretty great acting gig for a while on what was the #1 show in the world for a while, which was The Cosby Show. And he played the dude who married Cosby's oldest daughter. He was a series regular. Or at least he became a series regular, right? And he was really good on the show too, as a matter of fact. Now, he's done some other little acting gigs and stuff like that here and there. Anyway, where this is all coming from is that somebody in Los Angeles recognized him working at a Trader Joe's, which is like a very popular grocery chain here in Los Angeles. I don't know if it's outside of Los Angeles or not, but there it is. So he's working at a Trader Joe's. And somebody snapped a picture of him. And then some sites started making fun of him. It's like, oh, them working at a Trader Joe's. It's like, what? Look, he was in a big, huge TV series decades ago. And now he's doing honest work. Now he's just putting in an honest day's work and earning his living. And he still gets little acting gigs here and there and stuff like that for sure. As a matter of fact, Tyler Perry just offered him a gig in one of his shows because of this whole incident that's gone on. It's like, so here's a man who, just because he's not big and famous anymore, didn't develop a massive drug problem and, decided to sleep on a couch on the side of the road. No, he went out and did honest work. What's wrong with that? Look, a lot of people think that if some actor's in a movie or in a TV show, that means they're now millionaires and they're set for life. I'm going to tell you what, it's not the case. Yes, you got your big stars, but for most working actors, that's just not the case. I've got a friend, I'm not going to name him, but I've got a friend who's an actor, and he got a role in a television show whose name you would know. He got a role in this show and had to go out of town to be in the show. You would think, because he was a series regular, you would think, oh, he's set for life now. He's in a big TV show. No. That dude ended up making like $2,500 an episode. And he had to rent a place on Airbnb to stay. So he had to pay money to stay at a place in the city where they were shooting. And he's only getting $2,500 an episode. Now, you and I wish we could get $2,500 a week. That's not a bad living, but it's a short-lived thing. He shot for a couple of months and then he was done. He didn't get rich. He wasn't able now to vacation in the Swiss Alps and whatever on that money. And you know what? A lot of me and other ones of my friends and everybody in Los Angeles has a story about taking an Uber ride and realizing you're in the back seat of a dude who's an actor. And not just an actor who you might know or recognize that was in something. It's happened to me. It's happened to a lot of my friends here in Los Angeles. You take an Uber and you realize, oh my gosh, I'm in the car backseat of a B-list celebrity or something like that, right? Actors still need to work. They need to pay bills. They need to buy groceries. They need to buy clothes. They need to pay their power bills. They need to pay their rent. And this is an expensive town to live in. Actors got to work, man. Actors got to work. So I think it's great that this dude doesn't just go, I was on the Cosby Show, so I don't have to do anything. No, he's still out there doing work. I respect that. I think that's awesome. And I think a lot of actors out there could learn a lesson from this guy. So I think that's great. And I also think it's great that Tyler Perry offered Geoffrey an acting gig, because clearly he's a guy who's got a great work ethic. So I think that's great. Anyway, that's just my thoughts on all that. Let's move on to topic number 2. And topic number 2 today comes to us from Scott G, who writes, Hi, John. Hellboy, Rise of the Blood Queen is out in 4 months, and we still haven't had an official poster, teaser, or full trailer. We had the image of David Harbour as Hellboy released a while back, but that's it. Have you heard anything? And should we be concerned? Well, here's one of the more frustrating questions that I often get on the show. John, a trailer for this movie hasn't come out yet. Should we be worried? I get that all the time. The difference is usually they're talking about a movie that's coming out in 8 months or 9 months or 7 months or a year from now and saying, oh my gosh, we haven't got a trailer. Should we be worried? It's like the movie's more than half a year away. I mean, it's like 9 months away. Like, relax, everybody, blah, blah, blah. But I'll say this. I don't think that's an irrational question in a circumstance like this. Hellboy Rise of the Blood Queen is a high-profile project. I mean, it's not Avengers Infinity War or anything, but it is a high-profile project. Even somebody like me, like I've been saying for a long time, studios need to start putting out their trailers less far ahead of time. Like, there's no point in putting out a trailer 10 months in advance. There's no point. None. There's zero effect that it has. Here's a great example. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and we were talking about this clout of movies that are coming out in the week of December 21st. And one of them was Mortal Engines. And somebody said, man, when are they going to put out a trailer for Mortal Engines? And I'm like, they did. But it was like forever ago. They did put out a trailer for Mortal Engines. Really? Oh, right. I completely forgot. That's because, yeah, that's exactly. What's the point of putting out a trailer 10 months in advance or a year in advance? There is none. There's no point. You get some buzz, and the buzz eventually dies. And then you still got 5 months to go until your movie comes out. There's no point. It's a waste of money. It's a waste of energy. It's a waste of effort to put out trailers a year in advance, 10 months in advance. It's a total waste. And I think studios are starting to realize that. I think studios are starting to realize that. And you're seeing these windows starting to close a little bit, right? Like even now, like Captain Marvel isn't that far away. And just now they're putting out the first official image. I think we're seeing the studios are realizing there's no point in starting your overall main push of a marketing campaign 8, 9, 10 months, a year away from when the movie's coming out. No point. If we were one of the bigger films, yeah, go a little bit earlier, but there's no need for a year in advance or 10 years in advance. But anyway, let's get back to Hellboy. Hellboy is just 4 months and 1 week away. I believe it opens on January 11th, right? That's what they're saying, January 11th. Other than this one picture that came out, that they put out of David Harbour from Stranger Things, who's the new Hellboy, which looked great. We haven't seen anything. Now, there was one other thing that came out, and that was David Harbour put up on social media this black and white picture. It's a different image of him on a staircase, and he put up on his social media this the words that said, please allow to introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste, which is obviously a quote from the Rolling Stones song, Sympathy for the Devil. So he put that up, but he quickly pulled this picture down, but not before, obviously, a few people grabbed some screenshots of it. So he pulled that picture down, and so that hasn't been floating around. But other than that, we haven't gotten anything official. And here we are, 4 months, 1 week away from Hellboy opening, and we still don't have an official poster. We still don't have a teaser. We still don't have a trailer. Even I, who will at that thread concerned, but it's something we should start paying attention to at any rate. But I'm looking forward to the movie. I love the ground involved. Mike Mignola still chairman of the talking about James and that world that James Wan was creating in the in Atlantis and all that kind of stuff. It's some of my absolute favorite stuff in there. And it was really funny to me that some people were actually criticizing that stuff in the movie. They were actually criticizing the underwater stuff, saying, too much CG. It's an underwater world. What were you expecting? Just train Jason Momoa to hold his breath for 3 hours so he can go down and shoot all the scenes. Like, what do you expect? Of course it's CG. But I think it looked breathtaking and beautiful. I think it looked breathtaking and beautiful. Now, granted, it's just a trailer. It's out of context. But I can't wait to see it in context in an actual movie. So let's wait and see how that all turns out. All right, let's move on now to the fourth emailed in topic today. And the fourth emailed in topic today comes to us from Dimitri Voigt, who writes, It got announced that Rian Johnson and Daniel Craig are making an indie murder mystery called Knives Out, which sounds amazing. Do you think the two working together on this says anything about delays in either James Bond or Johnson's Star Wars project? It kind of looks like this one will be shot and finished pretty quick. What are your thoughts? All right, yeah, for those of you who missed the announcement, coming out of a film festival right now, Rian Johnson and co. have announced that he is making a brand new film that he had written a while ago with Daniel Craig, who had an opening in his schedule because the James Bond shooting's been delayed a little bit because of their director search. And they're making this movie, and they're going to start shooting really quick. They're shooting in early November. And they're probably going to be done shooting it before the end of the year. I mean, this is one of those movies that's probably going to shoot in about 8 weeks. And so it's either going to be done before the end of the year or probably sometime in January. Anyway, the official announcement and the official report came out and read like this. Production is expected to start in November before Daniel Craig shoots the 25th James Bond movie, which has seen its schedule thrown into uncertainty due to the recent departure of director Danny Boyle. Rian Johnson, who is producing with partner Ram Bergman, will make Knives Out before starting to shoot an untitled new Star Wars trilogy for Disney and Lucasfilm in 2019, first announced last year. Now, there was some speculation that there was a possibility that Rian Johnson could potentially start shooting his new Star Wars film before the end of the year. That was never verified, and it never sounded like it was anywhere near for certain. They just said, hey, I mean, it's possible we could start shooting by the end of 2018. Clearly, that's not the case. So he's had a window of time. He's going to make this Knives Out. Daniel Craig's got this window of time because there's a little bit of delay in doing James Bond. They're going to shoot this film. It's going to be done within 8 to 12 weeks, and then they can move on. And according to the reports, then Rian Johnson's going to start shooting his Star Wars thing sometime in early 2019. Fine. So that's all good. What I love about the sound of this project is that Rian Johnson was saying it's very influenced by his love of Agatha Christie stuff. And it's a murder mystery, and Daniel Craig is playing a detective trying to solve the crime, right? I'm a sucker for those types of movies that are done well. Not like Michael Fassbender's The Snowman, which is a murder mystery, but just garbage. This sounds like it could be pretty damn good. So I'm all on board for it. They're saying it could even hit theaters by the end of 2019. Probably more likely 2020, but it could even be in theaters by 2019, so we'll have to keep our eyes open for that. All right, let's move on to the final email in today. And the final email in today comes to us from Ryan Yamasaki, who writes, this has obviously been a big summer at the box office, and I saw that it's way ahead of last year. What do you think accounts for this year's summer box office being so much bigger than last year's? All right, so for those of you who don't know, there was a report that came out that this summer blockbuster season, the summer movie season, was like, what was it, like almost 15% ahead of last year. That's a huge margin. That's actually a really big margin. The question then becomes, what's accounting for that? Well, there are a couple things, and this actually got brought up a little bit on Open Mic yesterday. And there's a couple other things to keep in mind too here. The box office for 2018 hit the $6 billion mark faster than any other year in history. Overall, the year is up by like 35% over last year so far at this point, plus a 15% increase at the summer box office. So what accounts for that? I think there are a couple of small things, but there's one major thing. Some of the smaller things is, hey, you know, we've got a number of billion-dollar club movies like Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom, Incredibles, Black Panther, things like that. Sure, that accounts for a bit. But the biggest reason that this summer's box office is up a full 15% over last year is because last year's box office was one of the worst ever. Last year's summer season box office was abysmal. And so, yeah, that 15% number is a huge jump, but you've got to put it in context. And the context was part of the reason it did so well is because last year was so bad, right? So bad. Now, if you hear your kid in school jumped a full 2 grade points, like some people, maybe he didn't get an A, but he jumped a full 2 grade points. Well, that's great. But keep in mind his last grade point was an F, right? So a C, that's a big jump. Yes, but it's a big jump partially because his last score was an F. It doesn't necessarily mean your kid got an A, so you got to put in context. In this context, last summer box office was an F. So yeah, a 15% is a big jump, but just keep in mind it has a lot to do with because of where last summer was. But still, it's good news. It's good news nonetheless. All right, with that out of the way, guys, we've got a little bit of time left here to take some live questions. So let's dive over to the live question board right now, and we're going to start things off with Ben Heyusa, who writes, thoughts on School of Rock. It's perhaps my favorite Jack Black movie. I love that ending song they all performed, and Jack really played the guitar well. I like School of Rock. I've always said that. I've liked it. It's to me, it's not the classic that it is to a lot of people. It's funny that when I talk to some people and School of Rock comes up, it's like, oh my God, I love that movie. I'm like, really? I liked it. I thought it was enjoyable, but it was okay. Ann and I went to go see the School of Rock live stage production, live stage musical a few months ago at the Pantages Theater here in Los Angeles, and it was awful. I mean, it wasn't awful. The kids made it watchable, but it really wasn't very good. And then then I went back and kind of watched a bit of the movie again. I'm like, yeah, this movie isn't great. At least I didn't think it was great. I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I remember it fondly, but I never thought it was that great. But a lot of people, Ben, really love that movie. A lot of people really, really love that movie. And it's certainly got its place in the zeitgeist. Shannon Terry writes, have you heard of Tom Hanks playing Mr. Rogers? Yes, Tom Hanks is playing Mr. Rogers in an upcoming movie called You Are My Friend. I believe that's the name of it. And it's based on, obviously, a true story, but about this reporter who I think is being played by Chris Cooper. About a reporter who was very skeptical of Mr. Rogers. And Mr. Rogers agreed to let this guy write stories on him, and they became friends over years. And this guy just got completely won over by Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers may be one of the greatest human beings ever to walk the face of the earth. Probably would have beat Thanos like that because he would have talked Thanos into taking the glove off. Just amazing. And guys, if you haven't seen the documentary, the Mr. Rogers documentary, watch it. Won't You Be My Neighbor is the name of it. One of the best documentaries I've seen in years. It will change you as a person watching it. It's just incredible. So, but yes, we have heard it's called You Are My Friend is the name of it. Keep an eye open for it. Benny Yusuf follows up. I hope they use Affleck's script for the Batman. Come on. We've been waiting for this movie to hit green light for ages. Tired of the wait. And you know what? At some point, I missed the Batman story. How did I miss the Batman story? 1, 2, 3, 4. You know what? I totally missed the Batman story. My bad. Let's talk about this for a second. the Batman story, the cover image. I totally skipped over this. My bad, guys. Hell, what's wrong with me today? So yes, the main topic of today's thing. So, for those of you who did not hear about this, all right? For those of you who did not hear, there is this story that came out about a DC animated film director named Jay Oliva. And Jay Oliva, he's directed some of the, in my opinion, probably the best animated DC or Marvel films ever. Sometimes I talk about DC. I don't really like DC or Marvel animated films very much at all, but there are some exceptions. The Dark Knight Returns, obviously. The Flash Paradox one, I thought was good, and I thought the Doctor Strange one was good. Here's an interesting note. All three of those films, the Doctor Strange, the Flash Paradox, and the Batman Returns animated films, all directed by the same guy, Jay Oliva. Or I might be mispronounced, it might be Oliva or whatever, but I'll say Oliva for now. Anyway, Jay's other job is he is a storyboard artist. So he works with the directors. Before any shooting on a movie ever starts, a movie gets storyboarded out, which means you draw out shot by shot the entire movie. So that when you show up on set, you don't go, how are we going to shoot this? No, it's already all planned out, right? So Jay is one of these guys who works with the director to come out with the layout of the movie before the movie ever starts shooting. He's been the storyboard artist on films like Batman vs. Superman, Justice League, Thor Ragnarok, Deadpool, things like that, right? So this is a guy who and he directed the Dark Knight Returns animated movie. This is a guy who understands Batman. This is a guy who understands the filmmaking process. He understands all that kind of stuff. Anyway, he caused a bit of a stir on Twitter the other day. There was this conversation going on Twitter about, what was Ben Affleck's script like, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, Jay interjected himself into the conversation and said this. Hi, Bill, he's writing, the original Affleck script for the Batman movie was the best Batman script I have ever read. Ben had a kick-ass story, and I believe that the audience and fans would have loved it. Once again, remember, Jay was already working on storyboarding out Ben Affleck's script. He was already at work on it. So let's just read that again. The original Affleck script was the best Batman. This is coming from the director of The Dark Knight Returns. Was the best Batman script I have ever read. Ben had a kick-ass story, and I believe that the audience and fans would have loved it. Now, he goes on to say that it's also the most incredible Batman Deathstroke stuff together that he's ever seen. And then who else came along in that little Twitter conversation? Joe Manganiello, the guy who's playing Deathstroke. He jumped in and gave a thumbs up to that particular thing. He put in a thumbs up emoji on that comment. So what you've got here now is a DC animated director who's directed their best animated stuff and, in my opinion, the best Marvel animated stuff too, the Doctor Strange movie. He's the storyboard artist on Thor Ragnarok, Deadpool, Batman vs. Superman, Justice League, all that kind of stuff. He was working on this script. He was working on this. He had the Ben Affleck script and he was storyboarding out. And he is saying this is the best Batman script he's ever read. As a fan, two things come to mind. Number one, I ain't surprised. I'm not surprised. Ben Affleck is a tremendous filmmaker. He has a lifelong passion for Batman. He built a Batcave in his home before he was ever cast as Batman. I'm not surprised in the least. The second thing that comes to mind is this. It makes it clear, at least to me. It's open for interpretation. I'm just speaking for myself. It makes it clear, at least to me, that there was a massive fracture in the relationship between Ben Affleck and Warner Brothers. It's clear to me there was a massive fracture in the relationship between Ben Affleck and Warner Brothers. For Warner Brothers to summarily dismiss him as the director and then summarily throw his script out. Now, there is probably just a little bit of connection. Like I've always said, the official reasons they've given, never believe the official reasons they gave about why Ben Affleck stepped down. This whole BS about him, I just realized I couldn't properly play Batman and direct Batman, so I decided not to do it. Really? Yeah, no, that was BS. That was total BS. It was because of a fracture in the relationship there and a breakdown, and, we've seen all the drama with Ben Affleck since. I believe that he had an amazing Batman script. And when he's saying, I don't really have a script to where I want it yet. I even said from the beginning I don't believe that. I don't believe that for a second. And now we're hearing from people who've actually read the script and was working on it and storyboarding it out, who's saying this is the best Batman script I've ever read. And I have no doubt it probably was. And look, I have said and whined and lamented that I want a Ben Affleck written and directed Batman movie. That's what I want. I want that more than anything else in the world. That's what I want. And we're not going to get it. And the fact that we're seeing this happen now and that these comments are coming out, again, I have no problems with that at all. Now, look, I also get at the same time that when the decision to scrap the script may have been separate from the decision to not have Ben direct the movie anymore. Because there is an argument to be made, a valid argument to be made, that, hey, look, when they brought in a new director, in this case, Matt Reeves, who is also a great director, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he does with Batman. I would have more preferred to see Ben Affleck's Batman, but I'm very excited to see Matt Reeves' Batman. Matt Reeves is a great director. There is a very valid argument to be made that, hey, if you're bringing in a director like Matt Reeves, you want to let him decide what script he's going to use. That's not always the case. But in a case like this, you probably want him to be able to work off his own material. So there's that. So the script and the director gig may have been connected. They may have been separate, whatever. But it just makes it clear that they had a great script. And because of a fracture in the relationship, that went the wayside, which is really too bad. And it sucks because now this has just made me sad all over again about the fact that I'm not going to see this Ben Affleck Batman on screen, this Ben Affleck created and directed Batman. It just has made me sad all over again. But damn, I would love to get my hands on that script. So a little private message to Jay. Jay, you got my Twitter. If you still happen to have a script and want to link one over to me, I wouldn't mind reading it. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying right now. Okay. Sorry, guys, that I forgot to get to that topic a little bit earlier. You're probably wondering, hey, where the hell's the main topic? So there it is right there. All right. Thanks, Ben, for bringing it back to my attention here. All right, let's get back to the live questions. Sebastian writes, I'm not impressed with the Jack Ryan series so far, to be honest. Well, you know, you're the only one I've heard say that so far. Let's be fair. The new Jack Ryan series starring John Krasinski on Amazon Prime. The first advanced reviews that came out sounded a little bit lukewarm. I haven't started watching it yet myself. I plan on it. But everybody else I've talked to who've seen it is really enjoying it. So, but hey, it's all subjective, right? There was a few lukewarm reviews at first. Sebastian, you're clearly not loving it so far, and that's the subjectivity of entertainment. Jack Hamilton writes, which would make a better villain, chimp or baboon? Chimps, because the things that are supposed to be cute and adorable, those are the ones you gotta be scared of. Phil Nguyen writes, Kristen Wiig, better comedic or dramatic actor? Because we haven't had enough of her dramatic chops, I'll go comedic, because she's a great comedic actress. I think she can be very solid as a dramatic actress, but we haven't seen nearly as much of that as we have of her comedy work. So for now, I'm going to lean towards she's an even better comedy actress. Sebastian writes, star power doesn't replace writing or editing. Well, that's a misnomer, Sebastian, because good editing doesn't replace bad acting. Good editing won't fix bad acting. Good writing won't fix bad acting. A great performance won't fix a bad script. They're in a symbiotic relationship, right? It's not like one lords over the others. Now look, it's a really tough job to make a decent movie out of a bad script. It's a tough job. It's tough if you have bad editing to make something salvageable if the editing in the film ends up being bad. It's tough to make something salvageable if you've got a crappy performance coming out of somebody. It's tough, but you can do it for any one of the three. So, yes, star power doesn't replace writing. Star power doesn't replace anything. Good performances can help elevate questionable writing. Good performances can help elevate or help compensate for some bad editing. But just like great writing can help compensate for a mediocre performer. Great writing can help, and good editing can help elevate a mediocre performance. You know, they're all live in a symbiotic relationship. It's not like one stands out and the other two are just footstools for it. They all got to work together to some degree. Fine Wen writes, John Hamm, better comedic or dramatic actor. I have liked John Hamm in comedies. Like, I loved him in Tag, but I think he's an even better dramatic actor. So, again, much like Kristen Wiig, who was good in both, but I think it's pretty clear to say comedic. I think John Hamm is good in both, but I'll go with him as being the better dramatic actor as opposed to comedic. James Welsh writes, you see the trailer for Paul Greengrass's 22 July? Haven't seen it yet, but I've been looking forward to watching it. Sebastian writes, I'm excited to see Avengers tomorrow in IMAX. Yeah, the ongoing, I think it should be wrapping up here pretty soon. The Avengers or the MCU 10th Anniversary Film Festival thing that's going on. It is wrapping up here pretty soon. Getting to see the Avengers, and it's pretty good. I've been getting a lot of comments from people who've been going back to the IMAX and watching all the MCU movies, and it's been a great experience for a lot of people, and that's awesome. MuseTac Reviews writes, John, did you see the new Halloween trailer? Yep, we talked about it a little bit earlier in the show, MuseTac. Arturo Beltran writes, thoughts about the live-action Pokemon movie? I have no thoughts. I'm intrigued. I mean, look, you got a Ryan Reynolds in it. It's Pokemon, as long as we're talking about the right movie, like the Detective Pikachu. Is that the one you're talking about? If there's another live-action Pokemon movie, then I don't know what we're talking about. If we're talking about Detective Pikachu, it's intriguing. I don't have a lot of interest for it, but Ryan Reynolds must have thought there was something cool about it. So it's intriguing. I'll go as far as to say that it's intriguing. Sebastian writes, did you know Warner Brothers has a LeBron James parking spot? I got a feeling probably every studio does now that he's moved into town and he's got his own production company. I've got a feeling that probably every studio lot probably has a LeBron James parking spot. Marie Seifring writes, in Back to the Future remake, what car model replaces the DeLorean? Oh, I don't see there being any need to replace the DeLorean. I think you can still stick with the DeLorean. I don't see any reason why not. I mean, you can. You can go with a Dodge Charger or something. I mean, you can replace it. It wouldn't be the end of the world to replace the car, but I don't see any compelling reason why you'd have to replace the DeLorean either. So I'm totally fine if they do replace it, but honestly, if I'm producing a Back to the Future remake, I'm probably keeping the DeLorean. I'm probably keeping the car. That's just me, though. James Welsh writes, I know you dislike Pearl Harbor like most people. What do you dislike most about it? For me, it's the humor. It just felt out of place. I don't know. I think the humor wasn't all that bad for me, to be honest with you. It was the love triangle stuff. That's what killed the movie for me. Because honestly, Affleck wasn't bad in it. Josh Hartnett wasn't all that bad in it. There are several things about Pearl Harbor that work okay. Unfortunately, at the heart of the story was this love triangle story, and that just didn't work for me. And when that doesn't work and it's the heart of your movie, it's hard for the movie to recover from that. There are redeeming qualities, I think, about Pearl Harbor, but it was the main core narrative of it that was the ruin of it, I think. So yeah, that's kind of my thought on it. Izzy Alonso writes, plot twist. Gunn is going to direct Flash, and that's why Dave Bautista really wants out to play a character in the movie. Speculation. Well, I don't know. Look, first of all, there's nothing. Let's say, for argument's sake, that James Gunn is directing the new Flash movie, which we've had some fun speculating about recently. Let's be clear. Nobody has said that that's happening. It's just stuff we've been speculating about. That's it. Nothing more. But let's say, for the fun of speculation, let's say James Gunn does end up directing The Flash. Dave Bautista doesn't need to get out of Guardians of the Galaxy 3 to do a Flash movie. Actors can still do other movies, right? We just talked about how Dave Bautista just finished shooting a movie with Kumail Nanjiani. And he's about to start shooting another one. Actors can do other movies while doing MCU movies. So, I mean, because like non-compete contracts are basically illegal. You can't do those really. But, so, I mean, even if, in the unlikely scenario that James Gunn is directing a Flash movie, theoretically speaking, Dave Bautista could still do it. He doesn't have to be getting out of Guardians of the Galaxy 3 to do that. Just Plain Steve writes, just curious what your favorite kind of movie scene is. Like, what gets you excited? Maybe a good fight scene or shootout. Maybe a steamy love scene. Personally, I'm a sucker for great car chases. I'll tell you what. I've often talked about how I've only ever cried like 5 times at any movie. And I've often, too, said the things that choke me up, the things that get me choked up, are never love, romance, or even loss or tragedy. I don't end up, like, I can feel it, but I don't like visually get choked up over it. The scenes that get me choked up in movies are radical displays of loyal friendship. Radical displays of loyal friendship is what always chokes me up the most. And let me give you an example. Some of you may have heard me tell this story before, but it's a great story, so I'm going to share it here. Anyway, just let me look at... you guys remember My Best Friend's Wedding? 1997, Julia Roberts, right? I love that movie. Dermot Mulroney, Cameron Diaz is in it, and Rupert Everett is in it. So Rupert Everett plays a close friend of Julia Roberts. And he's a gay character. The character's gay. Rupert Everett is gay, but he's a gay character in the movie. And Julia Roberts, in My Best Friend's Wedding, finds out her best friend, who is Dermot Mulroney, is a guy, she's in love with him, but she didn't realize it. He announces he's getting married, and he wants Julia Roberts to come and be in the wedding party. And at that, Julia Roberts realizes she's in love with him. And so she goes to the wedding, really trying to sabotage the wedding because he's marrying Cameron Diaz and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, spoiler alert, she doesn't end up getting him at the end. She realizes this girl he's marrying is wonderful and that they're going to be happy together. And that's kind of how the movie ends. This is what got me really choked up. In it, she's at the wedding reception. So the wedding's done. She's at the reception now. And she's hurting. She's super happy for her friend, but she's also very hurting. She's very sad. So she gets on the phone with her friend Rupert Everett, who's in Chicago, right? Because that's where they live. She flew out to be at the wedding. And she's like, I just needed to talk and blah, blah, blah. And he's starting to encourage her. And then you realize, I'm getting choked up just thinking about it. Then you realize he's there. He's in the room. She looks up and he's there on his phone. Because she is his friend, he got on a plane and flew across the country because he knew his friend needed somebody. I'm getting choked up thinking about it. It was awesome. And that moment, that was the first time I ever remember crying in a movie. I think I cried. I think you can tell my eyes are getting red right now just thinking about it. The fact that this dude knew his friend was going to need somebody and flew across the country just to be there so they would have a shoulder to cry on. To me, the things that get me most pumped up in a movie. I love great action sequences. I love great space battles. I love giant monsters. I love all that stuff. But the thing that gets me the most, the scenes that get me right at my heart, are the scenes of extraordinary displays of friendship, almost irrational displays of loyal friendship. Those are the scenes that get me the most, man. Those are the scenes that get me the most. All right. Jabin Carter writes, will Avengers 4 come close to the opening weekend of Infinity War? I think so. I don't necessarily think Avengers 4 will beat the opening weekend record of Infinity War, but let's call it. It doesn't need to. It doesn't have to be. To be a smashing success. Will it get close? Oh yeah, I think it'll get close. Even if it doesn't match it, it'll get close. And by close, I don't mean like $1 or $2, but it'll come within 20 or 30 million bucks. I think. If it doesn't exceed, there's a decent chance here it could exceed the Avengers Infinity War box office. I don't think it will, but there's a chance it will. But even if it doesn't, I do think it'll come close. I feel safe in saying that I would take over 80% that Avengers 4 opening weekend box office comes within 25 million bucks. Within or over. So yeah, I feel pretty good about that. Let's see. Colorado Yeti, I love that name, that's great, writes, summer movie season is over and I fell in love twice. Once with Evangeline Lilly, once with Rebecca Ferguson. Thank you, Canada and England. Not just amazing actresses and performers, their characters were great characters you would fall in love with, right? You would happily fall in love with either of these characters. And they were both portrayed as, strong, powerful, confident, awesome women. And you would just of course you would fall in love with either of those characters. I got to completely agree with you on that, Colorado. Mr. Hank Dunn writes, 2 years ago, I worked on this movie with Vivica Fox and Daniel Baldwin in Buffalo. What was the first film you ever worked on? The first film I ever worked on, I'm forgetting the name of it. Hold on a second. It's a Sylvester Stallone movie about race cars. Let me just see if I can pull up the actual title of it. I got to go back a ways. As well, after not Shade, not Taxi 3, Liberty See Driven. It was called Driven. 2001 film Driven. I was working at the time. It also had Burt Reynolds, Kip Pardue, Stacey Edwards, Gina Gershon. Oh, Gina Gershon. Anyway, I was working at the time at a visual effects company, and I was doing some spot effects work, but mostly my job was as a client services guy. Like I was lack of a better term, I was really more of an administrator. And one of the first films I remember that we worked on when I was there was this film driven. And we just did a couple of shots. Our effects artists did a few effect shots. And what it mostly was like debris. So like cars would bump, and then I think the job of our company was to create 3D animation of debris flying off cars and stuff like that. And I believe that was our first movie that we worked on. I believe it was. So I'll go with that. Let's see. David Bent Shahad writes, unfortunately, we are getting new Predator movies almost once in 10 years. Do you think Shane Black's one will launch a new trilogy or something if it will be successful? I mean, well, yeah. I mean, you can say that about any movie. Hey, if a new movie comes out and it's really successful, could it launch a franchise? The answer to that is always yes. Always yes. The only time the answer to that question isn't yes is if you're in a scenario where, like, it's, Lincoln. And Steven Spielberg's movie about Lincoln, and he dies at the end. Okay, no sequel, no Lincoln sequel there, yes. But any other time, the answer to that question is, hey, if this movie, whatever movie it is successful, could it be a franchise? Answer, always yes. You know Fox would love for this to be a new franchise. You know they would love for this to be a big hit and want to roll out a sequel to it in a couple of years. Or a third, or a fourth, or a fifth. That's what every studio's looking for right now, is potential franchises. That's what they're looking for. There's big money to be made there, if you can do it right. It's a big question, though. See, I don't think it's unfortunate we're only getting one Predator movie every 10 years, because they haven't been that good other than the first one. And Adrian Brody's Predators was also not bad. But every other one has sucked, in my opinion. It's all subjective. That's just my opinion. But could this be a franchise if it's successful? The answer to that question is always yes. 23 Mark B writes, confirmed, Amazon's Jack Ryan is the prequel to Threat Level Midnight and also the origin to Golden Face franchise. Love The Office. Threat Level Midnight is one of the episodes. They've talked about Threat Level Midnight. For those of you who don't know, Threat Level Midnight is a movie project that Michael Scott of The Office had been working on. And finally, one year, they sit down and screen the Threat Level Midnight movie. And it's, like, awesome. It's so great. If you get a chance to watch those episodes, completely watch those episodes. Let's see here. How to jump. Okay. Chris Miner writes, it seems to run on some form of electricity. It seems to run on some form of electricity. Fabulous line. Fabulous line. I love that line. Ali Hussein writes, Bumblebee was moved to January 4th here in Sweden. About a month ago, Bumblebee was on the 21st of December. I was thinking maybe they're going to move it in North America too. It's possible. You know, it came out the other day that Aquaman also moved in some international territories from December 21st to earlier. From December 21st to earlier. I think it was moved to November in a couple of countries. And some people were speculating, hey, do you think that could mean that they might move it in North America too? I'm at the point that even after Comic-Con, because they didn't announce a date change at Comic-Con, but I still thought even after Comic-Con, there was still a chance that Warner Brothers and DC would smarten up and move Aquaman to a different date, preferably earlier. But I don't think that's a possibility anymore. Now, we're in September now. I think it's too late. I think it's too late. I think it's going to come out on December 21st. I also think it's too late to move Bumblebee. You could still shift it around in some international markets, but I do believe that both Bumblebee and Aquaman are going to keep that December 21st date here in North America. It could change in other markets for sure, but I think here in North America, it is where it's going to stay. All right, your average moviegoer, I like that name, writes, should there be a gap of time between reboots? Well, I mean, I usually think yes, but we've seen very quick turnaround times in reboots and have them work. We've seen the Hulk do it. We've seen Spider-Man do it multiple times. I always thought there should always be 5 to 10 years minimum before you do a reboot, but then we've seen examples where they've done it faster than that and they've worked. So, I don't know. I mean, I still kind of feel like there should be a gap, but when it's hard to hold that opinion for very long when you see practical examples of them doing it sooner than that and it working. So it's tough to say. I think theoretically I would still say yes, but clearly there are some exceptions, right? Ili Chen writes, if Marvel keeps working with Taika, Thor fits in Phase 4. As Guardian of the Galaxy, I like that. As Guardian of the Galaxy, I like that. That's cool. As Guardian of the Galaxy, maybe Professor X made people forget mutants exist, but got snapped. Well, now you're talking about 15 different topics here. I mean, sure, Thor fits in anything. And, we talked recently about, even if, and look, we don't know what Kevin Feige's plans have been for Thor after Avengers 4. We don't know what his plans were. We don't know if his plans were to kill off Thor in Avengers 4. We don't know, whatever. But what we've started speculating, and it's just speculation, was that even if they may have thought that Avengers 4 was going to be it for Thor, that the surging popularity of the character because of Thor Ragnarok and because of Avengers Infinity War. Because for a lot of people, he was like everybody's favorite part of Avengers Infinity War. That may have altered Feige's thinking and may have altered Feige's plans. We certainly don't know that, but it's certainly possible. But I agree with you. He would certainly fit in Phase 4. Emalia 1981 writes, what do you think about the trailer for the new Wonder Woman, a World War II movie, Airstrike, starring Bruce Willis, Adrian Brody, etc.? Is this by any chance Bruce Willis is back to form? I've never even heard of it, so I have not seen it, so I can't comment on it. Sorry about that. KC Link writes, I am the one person who loved Iron Fist Season 1. You might be. Look, you're not the only person. Look, most people hated Iron Fist Season 1. I am one of them. I think it's the worst thing Marvel maybe has ever done other than the Inhumans. I think even Inhumans was worse than Iron Fist Season 1. But as far as their Netflix stuff goes, to me, it's clearly the worst thing they've ever done. But it's all subjective, man. And I can tell you, KC, I understand why you feel you might be alone, being the only person to like Iron Fist Season 1. I can guarantee you there are others. I've talked to others. There are people who like it, because all entertainment's subjective, man. It's all subjective. Just because I didn't like it doesn't mean you can't like it. And your opinion is no less valid than mine. So if it hit you in such a way that it made you entertained, that's awesome. That's great. So I guarantee you're not the only person, man. There are others out there. I feel like saying Yoda. No, there is another. There you go. Ali Hussein writes, the only competition for Bumblebee in January is Glass, right? If they've moved in United States to January. I don't know. Let me just bring up here. Let's see what the release schedule in North America in January is. Let's see. There is Glass, but you're also still dealing with the aftermath of Aquaman still being in theaters, of Mortal Engines still being in theaters, of Mary Poppins still being in theaters. What do we got here? There's Hellboy on January 11th. We just talked about that. Then there's Glass on the 18th. And then there is something called an Untitled STX action thriller coming out on the 25th that clearly we don't have a lot of information about. So you got Glass there. You've got Hellboy there. I mean, it's an easier time than the December 21st date, for sure, but it wouldn't be alone. Derek Anderson writes, that new Halloween trailer is badass. Have you watched it yet, John? Yep, we talked about it earlier in Off the Top here this morning. We covered that in Off the Top. You might have been joining us a little bit late, Derek, but yep, and as somebody who doesn't even like the Halloween franchise, even I like the trailer, and I'm kind of looking forward to the movie now. Devontae Brown writes, Frank Underwood is officially dead. Is that what they're saying in House of Cards? So Frank Underwood is the character that Kevin Spacey, who, all other things aside, Kevin Spacey was brilliant in House of Cards. He was brilliant in that show. It's hard to put all the other things aside, but if we're just talking about the show for a second, Kevin Spacey was fantastic in that show. But they went ahead and decided to do the final season of House of Cards without him. And now Robin Wright, who played his wife, is going to be the main character. She was always kind of the co-main character anyway. What I did not know was how they were going to write him out of the show. I thought they were just going to say he was gone. I didn't realize they're actually going to say he's dead, which is interesting. I didn't know that. Thanks for letting me know about that, Devontae. All right. Big Vic 5BN writes, did you see the new Halloween trailer? My goodness. And again, we talked about it in Off the Top, and it's quite good. It's quite a good trailer. Darren Chase writes, what's the story with the Submariner? Doesn't Universal, with the rights, have to produce a film in a certain amount of time or lose the rights? True. I don't know that that's true. And no one's really clear on where the Submariner rights are. Look, not every deal is the same. For example, I don't believe there's any time limit on Universal having the distribution rights on the Hulk. There are rights to characters that are, licensed out to other production companies, that there's a ticking clock. Like, you have to be in production of a new movie every X amount of years in order to keep the license. Those exist. But that doesn't mean that's in every license. That doesn't mean it's a part of every deal or every contract. Not at all. So the reality is we just don't know. The Submariner is one of the, we've heard so many conflicting things. Like, there's reports saying, oh, it's this. And then other reports saying, no, it's this. I don't know what's true. I think the fact of the matter is nobody knows what's true on the whole Submariner thing. But no, just because there are other licenses where there's a counting clock and you got to be in production of a new movie every X number of years in order to keep the license, that doesn't mean that's true of every property. So we got to keep that in mind. Drew writes, have you played or watched Batman Arkham Knights? Yes, I have. I like the series. I do. I'm not as super excited about it as a lot of people are. Maybe I just haven't played the right ones. I had a friend say, because I only did one or two, and a friend of mine said, you didn't play this one, so I should get caught up on that. I heard that the new Spider-Man game is much like it, though. Okay, last few questions, guys. Roy L. writes, Nike and Dave Bautista should get together. No idea what that means, Roy. Gary Allegra writes, yesterday you said that the CW has the Superman brand. How so? Do you think Supes can ever be a big hit on Batman-ish levels again? Well, CW... No, I said they damaged... I said they damaged the Superman brand. CW is owned by Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers owns DC. DC owns Superman. So you see the chain of connection there. I said CW has damaged the Superman brand because they've made him a little bitch. I mean, that's what they did. They've made him a jobber. That's the wrestling term. They've made him a jobber. His role is only to be there to make the other characters look good. That's the role of a jobber. Whereas Undertaker calls jobbers the little bitch. So that's what they turned Superman. Superman, king of all the superheroes. They've turned him into a jobber. And I think they've damaged the brand of Superman by doing that. I really do. I think they have. Let's see. Ryan Levin writes, and this is the final question of the day. It comes to us from Ryan Levin, who writes, is Damon Wayans hard to work with? Heard a podcast from the Lethal Weapon guy who was fired. Interested in your thoughts. Well, I don't know. Like, all the thing, the guy who was in Lethal Weapon, hold a second. I forget his name. The guy's name was Clayne Crawford. That was it. Apparently everybody hated him. Like, people, crew members would hang posters around the set saying Clayne Crawford is an emotional terrorist. There were recorded conflicts between Damon Wayans and Clayne Crawford. Like, nobody wanted to work with the guy. And he lost his job over it. Now, this guy is saying Damon Wayans is the hard one to work with. I mean, I don't know. It seems like everybody thought Clayne Crawford was the guy who was hard to work with and nobody wanted to work with him. So, look, I didn't even watch Lethal Weapon. I've never even seen a single episode of the show. And I don't know Damon Wayans personally, and I certainly don't know Clayne Crawford personally. So I can't speak to either of that on any level. All I know is that all the reports I read was that cast and crew did not like working with Crawford. And said he was difficult to work with, and that he was abusive, and that it was tough. That's all I know. How much of that is true, how much of that is not true. Again, I wasn't there. I've never spoken to these guys. I don't know them on a personal level, so I cannot comment on that in any way, shape, or form. All I can do is tell you what I've heard. And so, yeah, it doesn't surprise me that the guy who got fired from the show for being impossible to work with is now firing back and saying, no, the other guy is hard to work with. So, I mean, I don't know. Mike Thompson slipped this in. I'll take this last one. Best Undertaker, dead man or biker? Oh, clearly the dead man. Like, don't get me wrong. The American Badass was what they started calling the Undertaker when he was doing his whole motorcycle. And even a song, Rollin', Rollin', Rollin'. I didn't mind the song either. And I didn't mind him coming down on a Harley and all that kind. I didn't mind it. But the dead man is the Undertaker. And I'm glad they went back to that. And yeah, there you go. All right, guys. That will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for joining me. Listen, don't forget, guys, I will be back again this afternoon, probably at 3 p.m. again today, because today, again, I am going to my new office. Have an announcement coming in the next couple of days. Keep your eyes and ears open for it, but I got to run out to my new office today and do some stuff there. But so I won't be able to be back in time to do a 2 o'clock open mic. So I'm going to do open mic at 3 o'clock today. So make sure you're coming back and join me for that. And then, of course, again, the John Campea Show is back again tomorrow morning. Sorry again that I was late getting to the Batman topic. It's only the headline topic of the show, John. How do you forget? Because I'm an idiot sometimes. It's just that simple. Thank you guys for being here. My name's John Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.